Hey folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Freedom City, 3rd edition. I don't know why I felt the need to use that voice, but I did. For Mutants and Masterminds. This is for the latest edition of Mutants and Masterminds, which we've given quite a bit of love to in this show in the past. Now, this is an expansion of their Earth Prime type setting. Now, more information on Earth Prime outside of Freedom City, you get Emerald City, which is sort of the new titular city for the 3rd edition of Mutants and Masterminds, which is pretty much Seattle with the serial numbers filed off. That was reviewed back in episode 238. Also, we did the Atlas of Earth Prime, which was reviewed back in episode 278. Sorry, this can't be 308 just to keep that number going. And then with that in the Cosmic Handbook, you get a good idea of what this universe looks like and feels like and sort of represents. Now, with Freedom City, this was the original city that they did a lot of their setting in. This is your New York. This is your metropolis. Less Gotham. It's a little too shiny for Gotham, although there are parts that could be. This is your city in which you could set your heroes. Now, Freedom City itself is fictional. It has pieces that you can think, oh, I've seen that before in blank, but you get the idea that this was a fairly originally from the ground up built city. The first 64 pages of this book are all information about the city. Neighborhoods, mass transit systems, radio stations, TV personalities. Honestly, a lot more than I would probably ever need in a setting book, which brings me to a point before I get into more about this. Do you really need Freedom City as a setting book? If you're not working in the Earth Prime universe, if you're making your own universe up as you go, no, you don't need this. Just like you don't need Emerald City or the Atlas of Earth Prime either. So if you're like me and you're a little too lazy to dig in to get the actual deep history and deep setting of an existing city, let's say Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans, or you aren't creative enough to make a city of your own and have it feel like something other than Vancouver, then honestly, you can go with these. I like Freedom City. I would, like I do with most things, use it and put my own spin on it or not do it exactly as presented. So the answer is, do you need this? No, honestly, for Mutants and Masterminds, you don't need anything other than the Hero's Handbook or the deluxe version of the Hero's Handbook. Just a lot of the other stuff makes things really, really nice. Now, once you get beyond the basic background of the city, you get like the deep history of the city, the stuff that is really going on, the history of what's happened there pretty much from the dawn of time. It's not as boring as it sounds. Now, one of the things that they have done here that I really like is there have been 1st and 2nd editions of Freedom City that have been printed out there based on the particular version of Mutants and Masterminds you're using. The thing I like here is that they have evolved this setting. Characters like the Atom family that were young in the 1st edition have grown up and are now either late adolescents or young adults in this particular setting. They've actually added on the years since the original book was published, and things have changed. Some heroes have come and gone. New heroes have risen. Some have fallen pretty far. 7, I'm looking at you. So it's really, they've updated the city not just with new stats for everybody, but they've made it feel like it is a living environment that you can play in. There's all kinds of different origins you can have for your characters in this. Pretty much the sky's the limit. It can be technological, it can be mutations, it can be preserver stones, which are sort of the ancient beings that seeded most of the universe as we know it. Then there are legacies of characters that have been around for a while. One of them is the Bowman, for example. He's been part of the Freedom League off and on for quite a while. There have been a lot of different Bowmen. The current Bowman is the descendant of one of the previous ones. There's Rocket, which is the speedster of the city, Lady Liberty. There's a lot of legacies that go on here. Like I said, it feels a bit more DC than Marvel just for that reason. I feel like DC has done more with legacies than, say, Marvel has. Really, the gold in this setting, I believe, is the sheer number of characters, both villainous and heroic, for you to work with. Now, none of these are particularly well balanced for the PL 10 150-point game. I present to you the Freedom League, which is much more like the Justice League than it is sort of the just beginning Justice League you get over in Emerald City on the West Coast. So you've got the Freedom League itself, which consists of the Bowman, Centuria, who is the daughter, I believe, of the Centurion, which was sort of their Superman analog. Daedalus, yes, that Daedalus. Dr. Metropolis, Johnny Rocket, Lady Liberty, Siren, Star Knight, and Thunderbolt. Then you get the bad guys. And if there's ever been a point in my life where I've rubbed my hands together and cackled gleefully at the thought of introducing bad guys into a game, Mutants and Masterminds does this brilliantly. Some of these are characters that you can tell are supervillains that have the serial numbers filed off, but they've done a really good job with it as opposed to a lot of other settings. Now, Mutants and Masterminds is far from the first comic book setting to make it a fully populated world. The first one that I know of that did this was Champions from Hero Games. So I can't actually address any of those. I can really talk fully about Mutants and Masterminds here. They've also updated a lot of the villains for this. Some are new, some are more established, some just have new stats applied, but a lot of them are evolved. For example, we've got Nightfire in here, whose previous life was as a racist superhero who wanted to wipe out all non-whites. He basically wore a white hood. What does that tell you? And called the White Knight. Now he's Nightfire because his deal with the devil came due, he died, now he's back as the spirit of hate and vengeance, burning all the time, etc. The variety of characters you get in here, both heroic and villainous, is absolutely tremendous, and in my opinion, one of the big selling points of the game. Because if you're like me, you can't always dig out an interesting villain for your players in your Mutants and Masterminds game to fight. All you need to do is poke around in here, find one of approximately the power level you're looking for, and throw it at the wall and see what sticks with your players. Between this, the Cosmic Handbook, the Emerald City, and the Atlas of Earth Prime, you've got a really, really well-populated universe for you to play around in. A lot of them are superhero pastiches. I'll be honest with you about that. A lot of them are, you can look at that and go, oh look, it's another Atlantis, or look, it's another stat block for Hades. But you can't go wrong with this book, ladies and gentlemen. If you like Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition, and if you're like me, you're either too lazy or don't have enough time to dig up a lot of information on your own or make up a lot of new bad guys on your own, this is really your one-stop shop for both of those things. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.